Hello and welcome to LA Currents. I'm Anita Bennett. As cities across the nation deal with rising crime, Los Angeles is using community policing to diffuse tensions. Joining us to discuss this issue is Deputy LA Chief Emada Tingirides. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing in the Community Safety Partnership Bureau.
The Community Safety Partnership Bureau started in 2011, and we have dedicated police officers assigned to public housing developments in city parks that have experienced a high rate of crime and in the past a lack of trust with law enforcement. Our officers are in the community building relationships, building trust, and looking at some of our quality of life issues in crime, utilizing a public health approach in their relationships to make change in the community.
You mentioned certain areas. Can you be a little more specific?
Sure. So we have officers assigned to the public housing developments in the community of Watts, to include Nickerson Gardens, which is the largest public housing development west of the Mississippi, Jordan Downs, Imperial Courts, Avalon Gardens, Gonzac Village. We also have officers in East LA, in Ramona Gardens. We have officers in Pueblo del Rio, officers in South Park, Harvard Park, and also in the San Fernando Valley, San Fernando Gardens.
Wow, interesting. So what's been the reaction from the community to the work that's being done?
The reaction from the community from when we started to where we're at now has been transformational. This program was the brainchild of civil rights attorney Connie Rice, working with the LAPD and the Housing Authority to really address some of the cause and tension that was occurring in these communities. These are communities that have very low socioeconomic development. These are communities where there is a lack of resource. These are communities that have had tension with law enforcement for decades. And to have a civil rights attorney come in and look at what the crime was in those communities, but also look at the relationships between law enforcement and the community, was the premise for the Community Safety Partnership Program. When we first began, there were folks in the community that didn't believe they were going to have dedicated police officers that wanted to come in and build relationships and work with trust and humanizing one another. So there was some doubt. There was also doubt on the officer's side as it relates to us asking them to police differently, to look at the root cause of conditions and concerns going on in the community and come up with a public health approach to address it. And 10 years later, we've been able to build those relationships. The officers have learned how to humanize the community, and the community humanized the officers. We've been able to address some of the quality of life issues, working in partnership with the council district offices, our schools, our nonprofits, to make a huge change in the communities that need us the most.
Mm-hmm. Were the results seen immediately, or did they happen very gradually?
The results happen very gradually. Mm-hmm. It takes time to build that relationship. It takes time for the officers to really gain an understanding of what's going on in the community. So it was incremental. And as trust was built and friendships were forged between the officers and communities, we began to see change. Not only did we work with the community, but working with the mayor's office and our gang reduction and youth development, intervention, prevention, officers linking services to the folks that they were coming across in the community to make things better. And over time, the officers began to feel empowered because they realized how to access resources within the community and how to link the community to those resources to help make change.
Mm-hmm. Now, the officers involved in the Bureau, did they sign up? Were they recruited? How does that work?
A little bit of both. When we first started CSP, we had close to 300 applicants of officers that were interested and took an oral interview to be part of this program. We have officers that started in 2011 that are still working in the program today. Now that's real deep relationships and commitment to the community. Now we have officers, when we have openings, the majority of our officers promote out of the program. They don't leave because they're disinterested. They promote and become leaders, and they pass on this philosophy throughout the department. So we have officers that get recruited, officers knocking on the door wanting to become part of this program because they've seen the change and they've seen how fulfilling it is to be able to work in the community and make those connections.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen relationships built that last after the officers leave that unit?
Absolutely. There's a lieutenant that recently retired, and I saw her recently in the community, and I said, "You're retired. What are you doing?" She says, "I'm having lunch with Miss Such and Such." And I thought, wow, you've built these relationships long-term to where you're retired, and yet you're coming back to have lunch and break bread with the folks that you created this relationship with.
That's wonderful. So I'm curious, how does policing and what you're doing, how does it diffuse racial tensions specifically?
Anytime that you're willing to understand the cultures of the community that you're working in, and you have an organization and a department that now reflects the community that you're working in, all of that helps build trust and relationships and diffuse tension. One of the reasons why this program was so important and placed in some of our most vulnerable communities was because of a lack of trust and the tension between law enforcement and the community. Mm-hmm. And when the officers set out understanding that they weren't going into these communities to suppress it, but they were actually going into these communities to understand it and make a change and work together, that diffuses that tension and that allows a window for us to come together to make change in the community.
Mm-hmm. And those changes happen little by little. When you talked about distrust, talk about breaking down those barriers.
It starts with understanding. I have told my officers it's okay sometimes to say I'm sorry. Not necessarily sorry for what I have done to you, but I'm sorry if you feel in the past you've been mistreated by law enforcement. The word sorry is so powerful. And if you work with the truth and reconciliation component to that and understand that hurt, you can begin to heal. And when you heal and build that trust and relationships, you can slowly begin to make change in the community. A lot of the communities that our officers are working in have been forgotten, and they have been victimized. And they've been victimized not only by some of the social systems or the lack of resources in the community, but there's been a historical tension between law enforcement and some of the communities that our CSP officers are working in. This policing philosophy, we are in our 11th year of this, and I've seen the transformation. Our police officers have seen the transformation. And sometimes it just starts with the words, I'm sorry.
Wow, that's powerful. I've seen you quoted in media around the world. Do you get requests to kind of use your program in other cities?
We have. And we actually, in the city of Fort Worth, Texas, they've started a community safety partnership. They've sent officers out to shadow us, to work with our supervisors, to learn the core components of what our officers are doing. We've had the opportunity to meet with San Francisco Police Department, with New York Police Department, and really just share some of the core components of what we're doing here in Los Angeles across the country.
On a personal level, how do you connect with the community?
I connect with the community by being out in the community. I spend a lot of time working alongside my officers, going to community events, engaging with what's really going on in the community. That allows me to talk to people. That allows me to understand what's going on, engage how the community is feeling about how they're being policed in our city. It's easy for me to engage in the community, especially in the city of Los Angeles, because that is where I was born and raised. As a young child, I lived in South Los Angeles. I went to middle school and high school in the San Fernando Valley. I went to junior college in the San Fernando Valley. So LA is my city, And it's exciting for me to connect. It's exciting for me to get out and lead by example and represent the officers that too have such a huge heart to serve this city.
Mm-hmm. When you first decided to join the police department, what did your friends say?
I had a lot of friends say, "You're too nice to be a police officer." And at times I felt maybe I am, but really a police officer is a peace officer. And it's our job to go out and be respectful and police constitutionally and engage with individuals on a human nature. And I knew that my demeanor and what I stood for and my integrity is what makes LAPD what it is. And I decided to become a police officer after the Rodney King incident. And I felt really compelled to want to go back to my community and build that relationship and that trust. I also saw what gangs and crack cocaine had done to the community of Watts, and I felt compelled to want to get back there and help resolve those issues and make the community that I'm so proud of better.
Mm-hmm. Since the unrest in 1992, what changes have you seen in the police department?
I've seen so much change within LAPD. There's been so many changes as it relates just to technology, to us adopting the body-worn video and digital in-car video. We now have an inspector general's office that has an oversight of some of our policies and procedures. The LAPD has really engaged and deepened their understanding and actions as it relates to community policing. The LAPD now reflects the community that we serve. A lot has changed since 1992, and one of our core values is quality through continuous improvement. We've looked at ourselves internally. We've asked the community externally to help make us better. One of the things that we do within the Community Safety Partnership Program is community sentiment surveys. We ask the community, how do you want to be policed? What is it that you would like to see your officers doing in your community? The fact that we take that feedback and we implement it and put it into action and then go back and ask, how are we doing, has been a huge transformation in policing.
Mm-hmm. How are you getting that information? Is it in person, through the mail? How does that work?
It's in person. There are focus groups. And not only are we so transformational that we're utilizing those community sentiment surveys, but we're having a nonprofit organization, an outside entity, conduct those focus groups and those surveys so that they're authentic, so that we're transparent in the information that we're getting, and that we are looking to our communities and our partners to help us serve the community in that manner.
Mm-hmm. Do you work at all with groups like churches?
Absolutely. We are deeply involved with schools, with our clergy, with our churches. Just 3 weeks ago, we had a big church event in South Park, and they flew in some of Faith Evans, a singer from, yes, she did a phenomenal job.
Yes.
And it was in the park, and we brought community members together through church, through music, to have dialogue. And that is one of the most powerful things that you can do in a community, is to work with your clergy and ask them to help assist you in making a change and a difference in the community.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So how do you get the word out to business owners and people on ways to prevent becoming victims of crimes?
Our officers in our CSP program walk footbeats. They do business checks. They engage with our community. And oftentimes through those interactions, they're learning about specific crimes that have happened. They're learning about where there's illegal dumping or graffiti in the community. And they provide information to our business owners on how to eradicate some of those issues, how to utilize the 311 line to get graffiti painted out or trash picked up. They've also given advice as it relates to having a security camera or hiring more security teams to help keep your business safe. They also give out referrals as it relates to the intervention workers that are working in the community that can help be out and about and prevent crimes in our business districts.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned technology, and I know the LAPD has put out an alert about follow home robberies. Do you think social media at all plays into this?
I think social media plays out in as it relates to any information being shared. And I think that when you have technology at your fingertips and information comes in so quickly,
Yes.
oftentimes that information can be slanted. Oftentimes that information may be missing critical information that the community needs in order to make decisions on where they're going or what their plans are throughout the day. So I think that social media, when used responsibly, can be very beneficial for law enforcement as it relates to sharing information. We have a campaign, Lock It, Hide It, Keep It. You know, keep your valuables unseen so no one walks by and burglarizes your car. We also use social media when we're looking for a suspect, and it can be very, very beneficial for us. On the other hand, just as we saw the other day, an individual's at a restaurant and it gets on social media, and then information gets out that that person was harmed because they posted a picture on where they were at having lunch. So I think that it's a double-edged sword, social media, and we all have a responsibility in ensuring that we put out critical and accurate information, and in doing so, we better serve the community.
Mm-hmm. And that is a very key point that you brought up. People, none of us should be putting on social media exactly where we are at any given moment.
It's at times I can see beneficial when you're at a community meeting and you're saying,
Okay.
come on down, we're having COVID shots, or we're doing backpack giveaways, and you're utilizing that information to benefit the community.
That's a fair point. Fair point. Since you have been in your position, you were appointed in 2020, correct?
Yes.
What have been some of your personal gains? Like, what are you proud of?
I'm proud of the trust and the relationships that have been built in the community. I'm extremely proud of the progress that our community has made in bridging that gap and building that relationship with law enforcement. We've seen a reduction in violent crime in our neighborhood engagement areas. We've seen better relationships and cohesion with our council office, with our community, with our schools. I am proud of being able to see a true transformation of a community and that trust and that relationship built with law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. I think you're just the second African-American female deputy chief in the LAPD, correct?
Yes.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
a
you.
huge accomplishment. Do you mentor other officers?
Absolutely. I also happen to be the second vice president of our Los Angeles Women's Police Officers and Associates. And part of what we do is mentor officers throughout all ranks, as well as civilians, to empower them, to find out where they want to be, where do they see themselves, and how can we provide you with the referrals and the resources and empower you to meet those goals and be leaders within our organization. I am proud of the men and women in the Los Angeles Police Department. I think that leadership is truly important as we continue to forge and work in community relations within our police department. And being a woman and being able to mentor men, women, civilians, and empower them to give back and do more is something that I am extremely proud of.
Oh, that's amazing. So when you have public events, what's generally the turnout, the reaction?
We have a great turnout and we have a great reaction. Oftentimes, many of the community events that we do aren't just law enforcement putting on the events. We're doing it in conjunction with the community. So there's a cohesion, there's planning on both sides, there's an excitement about what's going to happen in the community. Our officers are walking footbeats, passing out flyers, along with the housing authority, along with our rec and park partners, along with the community, to really engage and get the word out about why we're having this event. During COVID, our officers were walking footbeats and just putting the word out about where community members could go to get vaccinations. There was a lot of anxiety and fear about the process. We actually had officers go with community members to get their shots and hold their hand during the process because of that relationship that's been built in the community. But because of the conversations, the communication, the outreach that our officers do in the community, oftentimes our events are filled with young adults, they're filled with multiple generational families, our schools, our council district office, and our officers take great pride in what they're doing in the community.
Oh, nice. What types of challenges did COVID bring?
COVID brought so many challenges at a time when we were just building the Community Safety Partnership Bureau, and part of our main focus was to get out in the community and be face-to-face with the community. We had to teach community members how to log into Zoom. We had to have meetings online, and we lost that face-to-face personal contact. That was definitely a challenge. But at the same time, we got additional people to join some of our community safety advisory councils through the Zoom network because they were able to do it and multitask. For moms who were stay-at-home moms, they could log on their phone as they're walking to get their kid from school and still stay engaged. We worked with the housing authority to ensure that there were food baskets delivered to the families who were afraid to go out in public. We ensured that they had information on where they could go to get their COVID testing and go to get their COVID shots. Our CSP officers hosted multiple COVID testing sites and were there to engage with the community and answer questions.
Okay. COVID brought so many stresses for so many people. How do you deal with stress and, self-care?
I get my self-care from serving the community. It really fulfills me. It empowers me to do more. And anytime we can go out in the community, or I can go out in the community and know that we touched a family, or have a family come up to an officer and say thank you, that is what keeps me healthy and keeps me whole. I'm also very busy. I have 6 children, and they're all engaged and involved in multiple things. And that's where I find my comfort too, being with my family and just really watching them flourish. And I'm so proud of them.
Nice. What do you want to see happen in the future? Do you have some goals that you want to accomplish? You can talk about.
I think the future, what I really want to see in the Los Angeles Police Department is so intent on ensuring we serve our communities and that we do it in a compassionate and empathetic way. And what I want to see in the future is for us to continue doing that, to embed the core components of our policing philosophy that we're doing within CSP throughout the LAPD. One of the things that Chief Moore wanted me to do when he made the decision to promote me to Deputy Chief and oversee this bureau was embed it throughout everything that we do and everything that our patrol officers do. So my hope in the future is that more community members step up and are willing to listen and work through a truth and reconciliation process to build those relationships with law enforcement, to make change in their community, and also for the officers to really see that they have made a difference in the community, and for the officers to feel empowered to continue to work in this fashion to make change in the community.
powerful words. If an officer in the department wants to join CSP, is it a lengthy process?
It takes approximately a year to stand up a community safety partnership site. And it takes that long because we are very methodical in what we do, and we ask the community to work alongside of us to create these CSP sites. There's an external survey that's done, there's a needs assessment that's done, there's focus groups that are done, and there's a real comprehensive strategy to ensuring we understand exactly what the needs are in these communities. Once that comprehensive strategy is built, then our officers go through an interview process. And after that interview process, they have to go through a training. Our Community Safety Partnership School training is a 3-day training that is very comprehensive and has a focus on partnerships, public health, looking at root causes, working with the community, working with intervention. And the officers walk away from that with a real solid understanding of what they're getting ready to embark on as they join the CSP program.
Excellent. Well, this has been a very enlightening conversation. Thank you so much, Deputy Chief Emada, Deputy LAPD Chief Emada Tingirides. We appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is going to do it for us. I'm Anita Bennett. Thank you for watching LA Currents, and have a great day.